It's the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network.
Mike Francesa podcast, a special playoff baseball podcast as we get ready for the October baseball, which is as good as anything in sports. Because in baseball, the difference is the tedious at bat of June that you might think, my God, will this at bat ever end? That kind of suspended drama is unbelievably dramatic in October when it matters. And that's what baseball gives you. No other sport slows down like baseball does and gives you time to analyze it as it is happening, and you can think it and you can react to it. And that's why baseball in October is unbelievable. To talk it with us is Mark DeRosa, and you can watch Mark, of course, on MLB Network's MLB Central, which airs at 9 a.m. in the morning. I'm still waiting for him to manage. One of these years, we'll talk to him when he's managing the club. What's going on, Mark?
How you doing, Mike? And kind of leading in, you're 100% right on that. For 162, you just cannot be hyper-focused on every at-bat. But ball one of game one of the wild card series feels like a rally.
Absolutely. Every at-bat,
it really does.
Every at-bat is unbelievable. Every pitch, the matchup, this, that, which pitch is he going to throw? He just went to the fastball. Now is he going to go to the breaking ball? Will he go inside? Will he go outside? It's unreal. That's what makes baseball in the postseason as good. The NHL in the regular season, ho-hum. NHL in the postseason, unbelievable. Same thing in baseball. Regular season, all right, hey, we all like a baseball game. We all love baseball. But you don't have to see every game. You don't have to live every game. In the postseason, you got to live every minute. I mean, that's what's so good. Before we get to the matchups, okay, and what happened, let's look at the teams that didn't get here that were supposed to. You had two locks coming out of spring training. The Dodgers were one. The White Sox were the other. Dodgers are there with the big record, coasting to a amazing season. The White Sox never got out of neutral. What happened to the White Sox?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and play the injury card because, I mean, that's the easy excuse, and a lot of teams dealt with that. They just did not get their full lineup going at any point during the season. Giolito took a step backwards. But Dylan Cease showed up and is fighting for the American League Cy Young. Lance Lynn was dinged up. Their bullpen, kind of Liam Hendricks, kept them afloat, had a nice season for them. But offensively, outside of Abreu and Andrew Vaughn, they really didn't get much production until Eloy Jimenez came back. He missed, I mean, a better part of the season. So they were dinged up. And while they were dinged up, Tony made some interesting moves, intentionally walking a few guys with 2 strikes on them and doing some things that made you question what was going on. They didn't have Tim Anderson for the better part of the season. When you looked at them on paper, Mike, coming out of spring training, they were just so much more talented in a division that looked like it was the easiest to win in the entire sport.
No question. I mean, a very disappointing year. I mean, no one thought Cleveland was going to win 80 games, no less win 91 games. But, of course, they had the best manager in baseball, and he was able to finish the season, which the last couple of years he hasn't been able to. We all know all his injuries and all the ailments that he has. And, you know, I love him. I've always been partial to him, but he is an incredible manager. There's nobody better. Francona's record, he's a first-ballot Hall of Famer with it because of his managerial record. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The ability to get the young guys to buy in and feel comfortable. I mean, he's still got a top 5 AL MVP in the middle of that lineup in Jose Ramirez, and a couple guys took major steps forward in their rotation. Tristan McKenzie in that 2 slot took a massive step forward. He was awesome for them down the stretch. Cal Quantrill, we were looking at his numbers today. He has never lost in Progressive Field. In 44 games, 34 starts, the guy is 14-0 in that ballpark. So going to be hard-pressed to believe that Tampa Bay is going to come in the wild card series and beat them.
Well, you know what? Their pitching, as you
Mike,
said, has been unbelievable. I have a lot of respect for Tampa, which continues to get here year after year with such limitations. It's unbelievable. But the Rays and the Guardians, you like the you like the Indians the way I was going to call them the Indians, okay? Obviously, I'm going to call them the Indians forever. I don't like that they changed it, but they did. But Cleveland, you got to figure, has to be. I mean, you want to make all the home teams the favorites. They obviously have a huge advantage, but they are hot, and their pitching's been tremendous.
I would lean Cleveland. Lineup wise, they play the game a little bit differently. I know in the postseason everyone's looking for the 3-run bomb because it's hard to put a bunch of hits together, but they seem to have a lot of quality ABs in their lineup, and I feel like Tampa kind of limps in a little bit. McClanahan was kind of dinged up down the stretch. I mean, he started the All-Star game for the American League. The whole second half he's been dealing with a couple ailments. Tyler Glass now comes back. Awesome. But he's only gone 3 innings building up to game 2. How long can he go? So it's going to be, a myriad of bullpen weapons, and how did they score runs? And I think that Progressive Field's going to be rocking.
The Phillies, I guess they just didn't like Joe Girardi. Joe's a favorite of mine, but I know at times he can have trouble with young players. It was clear that he was not connecting with guys there. They get the job done. They get at least into the postseason, which for them was a positive. The Cardinals obviously are on this, victory tour right now with, with all the old guys and what they've been able to do this year. I mean, what Pujols did this year was unbelievable. I understand people like to go back to St. Louis. People love to play in St. Louis. But he acted like he took 10 years off of his age when he went back to St. Louis.
I never would have suspected he would get to 700 based on what we had seen the last couple of years, whether it be with the Angels or the Dodgers. So for him to catch, and he started so slow. He hit 2 homers in April. I think he hit 2 in May. To expect him to hit, he's been their best player in the second half.
Yep, he's great down the stretch.
And kind of carried them. So I'm interested in Philly. Listen, I think a lot of guys underperformed for Joe.
Yep.
I think there's probably a lot of guys in that locker room that would tell you, hey, maybe the way Joe goes about it, maybe we did need a different voice. But at the same time, a lot of guys caught fire in the second half. The JT Realmutos of the world. Aaron Nola has pitched like a frontline guy again in the second half. So there's been a lot, and some of the younger guys have come over and kind of established themselves in that at the bottom half of that lineup. So that was almost more perfect storm. I wish I was in that clubhouse to kind of put my temperature on what makes Rob Thompson so good and why it didn't work with Joe.
Well, he's a good. You know what? We know him pretty well. He's a good guy, and he waited a long time for his chance too.
And they took fire with him. I mean, they've had like the 3rd or 4th best record in the league since he took over.
That's it.
And
They're dangerous.
That's going to be a tough
dangerous series. That's a hard series. That's not a cakewalk for the Cardinals. That series.
To be honest with you, I would almost lean Philly in that series just because of the starting rotation. Wheeler can pitch to a 1. Noble can pitch to a 1. Wainwright's kind of had a couple clunkers down the stretch and talking about dead arm. Then you got Quintana going in game 3. I think, it's never easy to go in the bush with those fans and that lineup, and they'll find a way to not beat themselves. You're going to have to beat them. They're not going to give it to you. But I think Philly gets on that plane to St. Louis uber confident they can win that.
We're talking, of course, with Mark DeRosa, who you see on MLB Network, and who we'll get to when we finish going through the playoffs, and we'll talk a little bit, because I always tease him about being a manager, but he's going to be managing the World Baseball Classic in March this year for Team USA, so that's one more step closer, so we'll kid him about that when we finish. Let's get the Mariners and Blue Jays. Obviously, no one cares about this series, but let's be honest. The Blue Jays, big things were expected all year with the lineup. I saw the Mariners. I went to a game. My son one night wanted to go. He said, Dad, let's go see the Yankees tonight. Okay, went to see the Mariners. Wound up seeing the Mariners that night. Not that I had any interest in seeing them, but you know what? They weren't bad. They played really well. They played well against the Yankees. They have some players. They really do. They're not a terrible team.
No, Julio Rodriguez is the best young star in the game right now. He goes in swinging the bat hot. Jerry DiPoto won the trading deadline with Louis Castillo, who everyone thought was going to the Yanks.
Yep.
He ends up going to Seattle and kind of fortifying that rotation. They have a lot of no-name bullpen guys that throw the heck out of the ball. Going to be interesting to have to go into Toronto. I played there my last year in 2013. You give those fans something to pack the Rogers Center about. That place can get
and that's a tough lineup too.
That's
a tough lineup.
Yeah, good lineup. Right-handed dominant, so they can be pitched to. But I would lean advantage Toronto in that series. Alek Manoah is just a horse at the front part of that rotation. Kevin Gausman gives you a chance every time he steps on the mound. And you would have to think that lineup is loaded for bear with Vladdy and Bichette and all those guys.
All right, let's get to the one that everyone obviously wants to pay attention to, and that's the Padres and the Mets. The Mets were in first place for 175 days. They only needed one win to go down to Atlanta and get one win. They had their pitching set up, as we know. And the Braves kicked their rear ends. I mean, every which way. Their bullpen was flawless. Their power was impressive. Their lineup was impressive. The three Mets starters, including two guys who were top of the sport, had an ERA of 6.91 for the 3 games. They homered them to death. The games weren't even as close as the scores indicated. The Mets won a couple of games, so they at least got that out of their system. They didn't come home and lose. They won a couple of games. Now they're eliminated. The question that I got to ask first is this one: do you run, because the Mets are thinking more than this? And I understand you can't toy with a series like this, and you shouldn't. But do you, thinking a little bit about the Dodgers, do you pitch the big guys 1 and 3, hoping you don't have to pitch him in the third game, or do you bang him 1-2?
I got to get to the next series. I know.
So you bang him one, even if you win game 1, you bang him game 2?
I do. Because I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like the Dodgers have some flaws. I think the rotation has some flaws. I think the bullpen has some flaws. I think, obviously, their lineup, over a course of 162, they just browbeat you.
They kill bad pitching. They kill bad pitching.
But I just feel like this is a trap series for the Mets with the Padres.
No question.
They've never been able.
Nothing to play. The Padres can come in here without any pressure on them.
Absolutely, and they come in playing hot. Darvish has owned the Mets. He has pitched phenomenal against them. Blake Snell is as hot a pitcher as there is in the game right now.
And he's a great pitcher.
Manny is fighting for an MVP. We haven't even seen Juan Soto get hot, so he's going to be back in a familiar ballpark facing guys that he faced in a division he played in for his entire career. I just think you go get him, and if the dust settles and you got Bassett on the mound in Game 1 in L.A. against Julio Urias, so be it.
So you bet. So even if you win Game 1, you come back with the other ace in Game 2.
Put them away.
Okay.
Put them away.
Now let's look at the series. The Mets.
Yeah.
Right now, deGrom hasn't been good his last 3 starts. Scherzer's clearly got something still a little wrong with him, but he's going to game it. All right. The Mets, if they can, they have a guy who I have to admit, his first year was a disaster, but right now he's the best reliever in baseball.
Yep.
Hands down. I mean, he's overwhelming. So they have that. They don't have Marte, which is a huge loss for them. It has hurt them.
Loss.
They can be pitched to. They have not played well in September. They have not hit well in September. You wonder about their lineup right now. This series could be dangerous for the Mets. I agree with you, but let's be honest. The Mets should win the series. I mean, they're coming at them with they brought these pitchers in here. They brought Scherzer in here to win this. They have deGrom. They have Diaz. They won 100 games this year. They should be able to win the series.
Yeah, and you're 100% right. Advantage Mets. I think this is a big series for Buck.
Buck needs to win this series. I agree.
You need to win this series.
Yes.
He needs to win this series. listen, to go down to Atlanta, I don't think anybody would have put them on getting swept right there. For Atlanta to steal that division has thrown the Mets. I mean, this is team meeting time. This is like,
I agree. Let's be honest. The Mets came back dragging to New York. They got their rear ends kicked. They got knocked down with a left hook in the 15th round. They were in first place for 175 games. They needed one win. One win.
Think of what they gave up, Mike. They would have potentially been taken on if Philly gets by St. Louis. They've dominated Philly all year.
Yep, they had a completely different run to the World Series. Instead of being in the left lane on the expressway, they are on the service road with a flat tire and potholes. That's what they have now. Now, doesn't mean they can't do it, but now they have created an incredibly hard road for themselves to get to a World Series.
No doubt. And their lineup doesn't hit a ton of home runs, right? Outside of Alonso.
They have not. Now, early in the year, they were great. They had high on-base guys, and they manufactured runs, okay? They have two guys in the middle of the order who have to hit. Alonso has to hit. If he doesn't hit, the Mets will lose. I can tell you right now, he has to hit. Otherwise, they will not win. And that's funny. What they've been, but they have not been good in September. They were 15-13 going in. You know, they're about a 500 team in the month of September.
They out-hit the Braves in that series, that 3-game series, 27-23. The only problem is that half the balls the Braves hit left the yard.
Yeah, the Braves hit home runs, which is what they do. The Mets are not a home run hitting team, and Marte is a huge loss for them.
But I have to trust. I'm sorry. I was a part of the Atlanta Braves in 2001 when Arizona came into Turner Field and they threw Unit and Kurt Schilling. And we were like, oh, my. And they rode those two horses all the way to a World Series title. Yep. That it has to be the same.
Well, let me ask you this. Number one, how concerned are you about deGrom from what you've seen the last 3 starts?
The only thing that kind of shook me a little bit, deGrom's last start, he has been so unhittable the entire season, the last 3 seasons, it feels like, just dominating on one side of the plate. And what I saw against the Braves is him trying kind of change his MO a little bit. He was throwing a lot of pitches inside, and he was landing some of them, no doubt. But the pitch to Swanson, he tried to go in. It left it out over the heart of the plate, and Dansby takes him deep. He hangs a slider over the middle of the plate to Austin Riley, dead center. He goes 3-1, just middle shot heater to Matt Olson, and it gets crushed. So, I just think deGrom's got to be who he is. Get on that outer third of the dish, run that 99 to 100, dot it down in a way, elevate it occasionally with the wipeout slider, and he should be fine.
Let's be honest. The best teams in baseball all year have been the Astros and the Dodgers. The Yankees were great early. They struggled for 50 games. They played like a bad team for 50 games. They righted the ship a little bit late, but they don't have a closer. The Braves have some issues. The Dodgers have some issues. The Braves have played like the best team in baseball since June, and they are a wonderful team in every way. Young. They have starters. They have bullpen. They are well managed. They have a great lineup. They are a very dangerous team. The Mets were in that group of teams.
Yes, they were.
They now are playing in this round. The other teams aren't. First, this question. Psychologically, do you feel that hangover is something that the Mets have to deal with, or they're dead in the San Diego series?
That's why I feel like this is an opportunity for Buck to just really.
What would you do?
And this is a team meeting time for me. This is.
You think they had it already, or they have to have it?
I believe in my heart, and I mean this. This is coming from me. If I was Buck, I believe in my heart that we have the roster in here to win the whole thing. We have two of the game's greatest pitchers. We have a lineup that can cause a lot of problems. We have great team chemistry. We have the best closer in the sport. Did we let it slip away? Yeah. Did we make the road tougher? 100%. But everybody, it is what it is. Let's find a way to Forget about what's happened. We're a 100-win ball club. Let's go out and execute the way we know we're capable.
Well, that's exactly what
executing.
Buck said. Sunday night, Buck said, hey, I have a long memory. This was 3 games. We've had a wonderful season. We have a wonderful club. We will make teams pay for what happened here. I believe in my club. Go. Don't try to get me to be negative on my team. It's not happening. You want to be negative on them, go ahead.
Can't allow it. Man, is there anybody you'd want to go game 1 with than Jacob deGrom? I mean, seriously, in the entire sport.
No, but I got to tell you, I'm a little worried because what I saw with Oakland and what I saw the last game, I'm a little worried because he was lights out, and the last couple of games it looked like he couldn't control the slider.
Yeah. I said this on the air today. If I'm worried about Jacob deGrom, then we're in a world of pain.
And I think Scherzer's not 100%. I don't think he'll say anything. He'll take the ball.
Yeah, he's not.
But I don't think he's 100%.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to. I agree with you. Saturday night in Atlanta, he had no finish on his pitches and still was able to gut out 5 innings.
Well, he's a gamer. You know he's going to tough it out. You know he's going to, okay? I don't think there's any question. But they need these 2 guys to be good, and maybe they're going to be good. But San Diego, if you want to talk about coming into a series and just have no pressure on you, San Diego's in the perfect slot.
I completely agree with you. And playing as good a baseball, I know they've dropped a few down the stretch here, but I always go based on Darvish, Snell. Hader has recaptured it. He looked terrible when he first came over in the trade. He has seemed to right the ship and has been pretty dominant the last 7 times out. Their lineup is scary. This is going to be a tough series. There's no doubt about it. But
so you like Padres or Mets?
I like the Mets.
Okay, I agree.
I like
now,
the Mets. I really
Big
do.
4. Talking about Mark DeRosa, Big 4. Houston, let's call the Yankees to last. Dodgers, Braves, and then the rest of the National League. The champion comes from where? Does it come from the Big 2, or are the Mets still alive? Let's start. Give me a thumbnail on the Dodgers. What do you think about the Dodgers? You worried about them?
I can't say I'm worried about them, but if I'm a team, I feel like they're a beatable team. I think Julio Urias is one of the more underappreciated pitchers, but I also feel like he's beatable in October. Same with Kershaw. I don't know necessarily who's going to get the ball at the back end of that bullpen.
No, they have a question mark just like the Yankees do, and that could really hold them up. There's no question. But the team has been a machine all year.
But I think over the course of 162, you can be a machine just on sheer depth.
Okay, so you think the Dodgers are not automatic here?
I think they are not automatic here.
Do you like the Braves more than the Dodgers?
At the beginning of the season, I would have told you no. But right now, the way it's playing out, the Atlanta looks like the cream of the National League.
I have a hard time fighting that. I think it's I think the Mets lost their chance to get to the World Series. I think it's just too hard a road. I think if they had Marte, I'd be a little more confident. I think he really is a big miss for them in the lineup, and I don't think he couldn't hold the bat the other day, so I don't know when he's coming back. Yeah. The Braves have been playing brilliantly. The Braves have been on a 114-game pace since June 1st. I mean, they put the pressure on the Mets every stretch of the way, and that lineup is unbelievable.
I hate to say this because when you go into the postseason, it does take, the entire roster. Yep. Somebody's got to step up offensively, but the Mets are going to go as far as deGrom and Scherzer take them.
Agreed.
And that's sorry, Jacob, sorry, Max, but it's why you were brought in here. He's making $43.5 million. Jacob could pretty much, he's got a blank check. It's kind of on those 2 guys' backs to get it done.
I totally agree. And that's why they needed to give them a little chance. If a win in Atlanta put them in a very different position in the playoffs than they are now. They have to win a lot just to get back to the same spot.
Absolutely.
You could have thought that they basically had a free ride to the League Championship Series. Now they have a lot of work to do to get to the League Championship Series.
Now they're going to have to take down San Diego, take down the Dodgers, and then potentially stare down the Braves.
That's a lot.
I just don't see that
That's
happening.
A lot. I agree. That is a lot. So is it Braves or Dodgers for you in the National League?
I picked Toronto Dodgers at the start of the year.
Right.
And I don't want to deviate off it, but Atlanta looks like they're going back.
All right, Yankees and Houston. Now the Yankees.
Isn't it amazing? One series, boom.
Yankees had a strangest year I can ever remember. They had a ton of injuries, but so did a lot of other people. But they played 50 games that was all world. They played 50 games that was Stump Merrill. Okay, they were a strange team. Here's the thing I don't like. They don't have a closer. That is a huge issue. I'm telling you right now, I don't know who closes the game for them. I'm sure if I think it's probably going to be Holmes. But let's be honest, he hasn't been good. He lost complete control of that sinking fastball. He lost everything. He hasn't been the same pitcher. The loss of King was dramatic for them. Chapman is not. I wouldn't trust Chapman as far as I could throw him. Okay, they don't have anyone you can count on in that role. They have good arms. They have live arms. They have a lot of kids with live arms, but none of them are proven to be a closer. That's a huge problem. I think in an American League, I think Houston is better than everybody else, to be honest with you. I just think they've been better all year. I think they're better.
I would 100% agree with you. I felt like the Yankee season, right? I felt like their starting rotation was so dominant. They were on like a historic pace in May. Everybody had a sub-2 ERA, up and down. Nestor Cortez was the best pitcher in the game. Jamison Taillon got off to a great start. Everything was rolling. Clay Holmes was throwing bowling ball sink. And it just couldn't withstand. Eventually, the lineup was going to have to, outside a Judge, be productive. And it just seems like, Anthony Rizzo goes down. Stanton's been in and out of the lineup. DJ not being healthy with the foot has kind of cost them. Boone has been forced to run these lineups out.
Oh, he's playing 5 or 6 guys that shouldn't even be in the lineup.
So it's hard. It's hard when you're running a lineup out where Judge is forced to lead off just to get one pitch to see or to get him as many at bats as you can possibly get him.
Yep.
Because the rest of the lineup is just is kind of struggling.
The key for them is really Torres. He has to hit. If he hits, they can win. But that's what they need. But I don't think they have the closer. And let me be honest, I don't trust Cole. I never have.
That's where I want to go.
He doesn't.
He can't.
You know how many games he blows with a 3-run lead in the 6th inning and gives up a big homer? I mean, forget it. I don't trust him in the big game. He has not been a good big game pitcher. He might strike out everybody in the ballpark, but then he'll give up a 3-run homer in the 6th. I don't trust him. And they don't have a closer. I think that's a hard way to get to the World Series.
But I also feel like whoever comes out of that Rays Guardians, it'd be hard-pressed for me to believe that the Yankees don't find themselves in the ALCS.
No, listen, I think we're headed towards the Yankees and the Astros. I think we'll get to the Yankees and the Astros, but I think the Astros, who own the Yankees, are going to beat them again.
I think the Astros are so deep. Starting rotation-wise, you could pick whatever 4 you want to go with. And then you can move the other 2 guys to the bullpen.
Lineup, bullpen. I'm telling you, they all loaded that team, and they were good all year. And they know how to play the Yankees. They don't blink.
I like
Houston.
Are we looking at a rematch?
Listen, that series will be unbelievable. I hope we get it. I really do. I think we have a good chance to get it. I think it'll be a classic. There's nothing but pure hatred there between those teams. Go right down the line, from the accusations to everything else. Forget it. Right down the line, that would be a classic series. For the Mets, I just think they created too long a road for themselves. If they had won one game, you could have placed them in the championship series. Now to get there, they got to beat a San Diego team that's dangerous, and then they got to beat the Dodgers.
I completely agree with you. And everyone sits there and tries to figure, the 5 days off, you can gain a little rust. If you heard Brian Snicker last night talk about how much those 5 days are going to mean for him to get his team rested and his bullpen rested.
Are you kidding? Get your pitching set up.
I'm so tired of people saying.
And get your pitching set up versus what you might wind up doing in these 3 games.
Exactly.
I mean, forget it.
Exactly.
I did. Listen, that was a crushing weekend for the Mets. Absolutely crushing. And that's why, as you said, this is a very big series. And you know what? I hate to put the pressure on him, but a very big series for Buck. It really is. Buck's had a great year. A great year.
He's probably going to get National League Manager of the Year.
But he needs, with the postseason gremlins or clouds or whatever you want to say, he needs to get through this first round.
I completely agree with you. The team is too talented. It has been too great a story the entire season, and did it predominantly without deGrom. For them,
and listen, they overcame a lot, and they had Scherzer on the shelf a long time too. They did a great job.
They did.
They really and give Alonso and Lindor credit. They played every day. They both knocked in. Alonso knocked in 131 runs. Lindor knocked in over 100 runs, playing shortstop. Hit 26 home runs. He won last night. They really carried the team. They played well a lot of the year. They did not play well in September at all. And they've got to get the ball to Diaz. That's their big strength. They're good in close games. They need to get Diaz in. But I'll tell you right now, even more than Judge, Alonso has to hit.
I'm with you.
For the Mets to win.
I'm with you.
If Alonso doesn't hit, I'm telling you, the Mets will not win anything.
Take a lot of pressure off everybody if he gets into one.
He has to get, and he's been really good all year, and he's gotten a lot of big hits. He's gotten a lot of RBIs. He's done a really good job. He's had a wonderful season. He really has. I agree with you about the Braves. I'm still thinking that the Dodgers are the class, but I'll tell you something. I can't tell you how impressed I am with that. Watching those 3 games this weekend, all I said was, man, this Brave team doesn't have a weakness.
No. They brought over that Raisel Iglesias guy because there was talk about, Kenley. Kenley's caught fire lately. The Raisel Iglesias to kind of solidify that 8th inning and use him. He's given up 1 run since he's come over.
And
their
they're deep,
trade.
and their lineup. How deep is the lineup?
They're 2 young guys, Strider. They took him out of the bullpen and infused him into the rotation. Michael Harris II comes up and allows everyone to relax, play center field. It
Swanson,
really is
Riley. Look what Riley's become. Swanson, Olsen. Olsen was cold for a while. Then he got caught fire the last 10 days. They are loaded.
Absolutely loaded.
Absolutely.
Houston is too.
Who wins it all?
I think Houston's really good.
I can't disagree with anything you say.
I think Houston's really good. I find myself leaning like we're going back to Minute Maid again and going to watch, hopefully, Dusty Baker get himself a World Series.
All right, managing Team USA in March. You've had managerial aspirations. I always teach you about it. You'd be a great manager. You get along with players. You understand the game. You're the kind of guy I think that would just flourish. I always knew Cora was going to be a manager. I always said it to him. I knew he was going to be a manager. He's a wonderful manager. I always said the same thing about you. You'd be a wonderful manager. Now you're dipping your toe in. Have you put your plan together and have you refined it and everything? Are you ready to interview?
I got my binder ready.
You do good. You got to have your binder. You got to go through that interview. You got a great personality. You're a very likable guy. You've been around baseball your whole life. You're a perfect guy to manage. And you're managing Team USA in March.
Totally humbled by it. I'm going to say this real quick. When they called to come in and interview for it, for Team USA, I thought back to the previous interviews, the Marlins, the Mets, and I thought back to what Boone, A.J. Hinch, Alex Cora, some of the kind of my guys that I played against had said to me. They're like, D-Row, if you want it, you got to go get it. They're not just going to hand it to you. So when you go into these interviews, you have to tell them before we even get rolling, like, I want this. That's why I was put on this earth. Give me this opportunity. So I attacked I attacked this Team USA interview a little bit differently.
That's good because you know what?
Really
that's how Boone got the job. You know, he got it in the interview room.
Yeah, I think they all kid me. Booney and all the guys text me after I got the job. They said, "Hey, congratulations. Just know if you ever decide to manage, you'll never have a roster that looks like this. You're gonna have to really grind." But it has been so humbling. We're trying to figure out the position player wise is just over the moon. I mean, I've talked to Mike Trout about he's the kind of the captain, the belle of the ball. Like, I think a lot of these guys are saying yes to be a part of a locker room and get a chance to play with him. And then talking to him, he reached out to Harper. He wanted Bryce because they've kind of been connected through the draft and their careers have kind of paralleled each other. So once Harper was in, then Mookie wanted to play. Arenado and Goldschmidt wanted to play. So, yeah, I'm 90%, couldn't be more fired up, 10% a little nervy about going into it because, I mean,
hey, it's
I'm
a
sure
great
we'll be the
opportunity,
favorites,
and I think it will launch a managerial
up.
career that I've been waiting for years. So I think, and I agree with that. You got to go in there. I hear that more than anything else. Like, I'll say to somebody, either a team executive or an owner, I'll say, "Hey, what happened with this guy?" And they'll say to me, "Man, did they just not do the job in the interview?" I mean, yeah. I've heard that so many times. Why didn't this guy get a job? Well, he just never knocks the interview out of the park. I mean, there are guys that have been like that in every sport. You have to. Those owners want to be wowed when they go in there. When they go in that meeting, they want to be wowed, and that's where you got to win it. Is right there. You know, because there's not much separating guys. You know.
I think it's time
managers
and place
can come from
too,
anywhere,
Mike,
so they want.
I just
they
dropped
want to
my
be
daughter
wowed
off
by
at
that
college.
interview.
She's a freshman at college,
you know what?
so she's out of the house. My
That's
son is 13 years old and totally enthralled with the game. So I also feel like that played a big part in me being in a position personally where I could throw myself into this.
Good.
100.
I think it's great. It'd be great for you, and I think it'll lead to what it should lead to, and that is you being a major league manager. But right now you can get Mark DeRosa on the MLB Network's morning program, MLB Central, which airs at 9 a.m. We get ready for the postseason, which is going to be great. I tell you, you're going to get wall-to-wall baseball here. It's going to be wild. Look at Friday as an example. I mean, look how good is Friday? I mean, what if you like baseball? Friday's just a day you don't even want to go anywhere. I mean, you got the Rays in Cleveland at 12. You got the Phillies and Cardinals at 2. You got the Mariners and Blue Jays at 4. Then you got the Padres and the Mets at 8. How good is that?
Let's go. Take the day.
That's it. I mean, that's as good as it gets right there. Then you got them repeating, bring them back right away. These series, you know, you can't mess around. You can't mess around in these series. Your season goes right by the boards. You got to be ready from inning 1, you know?
Yeah, I love the fact that it's not one and done. I like the 3-game series. I think it's a better kind of barometer of where you're at.
I think one game is tough. You know, I agree. I think one game in any sport, you know, you can't do anything different in football, but in any sport, one game is just very, very. Anybody can have a bad inning, a bad game,
exactly,
you know, or something like that. So at least you got a chance to rebound. But you know, it's going to be fascinating. It really is. And there's a lot of good teams. I mean, let's be honest. There's a lot of teams that played a lot of good baseball this year.
I agree with you. The National League is going to be an absolute bear. I fully expect the Yanks and Astros to be in the ALCS.
I think they're the best too. But I'll tell you something: be careful with this Yankee team because I'm really worried about the bullpen.
I agree with you. But I also think to walk into Yankee Stadium in October is probably one of the hardest things to do in all of sports.
Yeah, never easy. So, but you know, the Yanks. It's been a long time between drinks.
Severino looked great.
You know, think about the Yankees. They've won one World Series since 2000. Since 2000 on the nose, they've won one World Series.
Well, I mean, you look at who they're potentially going to have to take on. The Astros have no problem walking in the Yankees.
No,
Stadium.
they play. They have an advantage to the Yankees. They've beaten the Yankees enough where they know they can beat the Yankees. I don't think there's any question about that.
I mean, they should have
don't fear the Yankees
here
a little
for Aaron Judge.
Yeah, they don't fear the Yankees even a little bit, I'm telling you right now. How about Judge's year? I should mention that. We should mention that. I mean, it's been an amazing season, hasn't it?
It really has. We got a chance to see Miggy get 3,000, Pujols get 700, Ohtani come back and do – I mean, he was one of the best pitchers in the entire game, throw in 30-plus bombs, and then for Judge last night to step up and break Roger Maris's record. It really has been a great year.
All right, thanks. Good luck to you.
All right, Mike. Great talking to you.
Thank you. You can see Mark DeRosa, as I said, MLB Network's MLB Central, 9 a.m., so check it out. And remember, podcasts, wherever you want to go, Bet Rivers Network, or wherever podcasts are distributed, that's where you can get the Mike Francesa podcast. Send us your emails at mikefrancesapodcast@gmail.com. And remember, look for the Football Friday, which will come your way right around the corner. So busy week right now, busy time. Nothing better than October when you have all the football and plenty of baseball to keep you occupied. Great time of year. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network.